I'm 7 years old, standing barefoot at the edge of the ocean. I'm with my kupuna, 3 old Hawaiian women who care for my sisters and me while our parents work. It's twilight. We watch as the moon rises slowly over the horizon and the tides begin to shift. These elders know every stone, every sensuous curve of the bay. They rarely leave our hometown, yet they travel far away and in many ways. You see, they move effortlessly across the landscape where the inner and the outer worlds meet. They mend broken bones by chanting softly. They plant and they fish according to the lunar cycles. They speak to the winds and the rains as intimately as you and I would a beloved. There are those in the audience who know exactly what I'm talking about because you were raised this way. When I was young, I thought that explorers were men who wore pith helmets and went on safari. And I wasn't interested in that. Instead, I was captivated by the photographs in magazines like the National Geographic, where I saw cultures and I could look at their faces and imagine that these people knew the language of the winds and the rains. They could find their way home by the stars. And this is what I was interested in. I had no idea that I would become an anthropologist. In fact, when I was growing up, I didn't really know what anthropology was. But this much I did know. I wanted to bear witness to that which was vanishing because I saw it all around me. I watched as my elders yielded to an encroaching culture, a culture that misunderstood them, a culture that was suspicious of their practices and power. I saw how they would veil themselves and their mana'o. They would not speak up, they would not stand out. It was their way of surviving. And I wonder sometimes, now that I'm much older, where in my life do I yield? Where do I not stand up and speak out? Where do I hush the voice of that barefoot girl whose hair blows wild and free and whose heart knows the way? At the ocean with my kupuna when I was 7, they predicted that the time would come when the world would be in trouble. They said that it would be because we forgot who we are, that we ceased to remember an ancient memory, a deep knowing. It's the stories. The stories will help them find their way home. Baby girl, remember the stories. I'm on a small island in Micronesia with a 6-man film crew. We have no running water, no power, very little contact with the outside world. It's paradise. Except we have one small problem. We have 5,000 pounds of provisions, medical supplies, food, water, film gear. There's no transportation. The only thing with wheels is an old cart. So here I am, pushing an old wheelbarrow loaded with film equipment, trying to catch up with the guys who are now on the other side of the island. And I'm moving this thing as hard and as fast as it will go down this narrow, bumpy path. And walking toward me is a Micronesian chief. And he's slow, and he's elegant. He's like an elder statesman. And I, in contrast, am frantic and unsteady. And when our paths meet, something happens that absolutely stops me in my tracks. Dr. Lindsey, why you go so fast? So I explained to him, crew's on the other side of the island, we're losing daylight. You all have watches, but you have no time. Whenever I am racing through airports, racing through my email, racing through my day, there is not a moment that I do not think of the words of this Micronesian elder. And I ask myself, what price do I pay for my busyness? This well-intentioned veneer of efficiency that keeps me separated from a deeper longing for something richer and far more meaningful. Have you ever wondered that? Perhaps someday we'll come to know that faster is not always better, and that more is never enough. And I realize that my striving is the result of a belief that if I am productive, then I will be more accomplished. And if I'm more accomplished, then I will be successful. And if I am successful, then my life will matter. And if my life matters, then I will be loved. It's exhausting. There are people in what we refer to as third world countries who would think that behavior is mad. While on the island in Micronesia, I'm in the company of women. And about a week into my stay, I realized that I haven't seen a mirror. Except for a small compact in my makeup case, there are no mirrors. What I do see are women in their 90s, with breasts down to their waist, flirting wildly with my crew. Women with no teeth that have these infectious smiles and are innocent in their sensuality and giggle like schoolgirls. They are beautiful. And they have a complete disregard for the size of their waist. They don't care. You cannot tell them otherwise. I want to be like them when I'm 90. I mean, who am I kidding? I want to be like them now. On one of my trips to India, I'm walking down a dusty road, and I see this beautiful woman dressed in this elegant sari. And as I get closer, I realize that she is squatting, trying to repair a pothole in the road using cow dung. Cow dung. And so I say to the interpreter, why would a woman dress so elegantly to do this kind of work? And so he asks her, and without hesitation, she says in her beautiful dialect, I dress for the divine. On a recent trip to a small island in Italy, to Sardinia, photographer Lisa Christine and I, Lisa will be speaking to you later this afternoon. Lisa and I are there. It's part of a project where we're going around the world to be with elders and wisdom keepers. And on the last day that we're in Sardinia, we meet Salvatorica. She's 110 years old. And we ask her, what is it you want to tell the world about what you've learned in your life? And she says, you know the languages of the world because you are children of the gods. Salvatorica is not referring to a language, but to a fluency of meaning and memory. These experiences remind me that we live in a society that is often tracking the wrong stars. It's as though we're referring to a map that someone else is using in order to find our way home, someone else's measurements of our value, someone else's skewed perspective, sets of numbers on a scale or the size of our clothes or the size of our bank accounts or our homes to tell us if we are worthy. It's as though we're being sold a lifestyle when what we want most is a life. We are prostrating before false gods of consumption and commerce and celebrity. And the only thing that keeps this illusion alive is our accepting the lie that we are not enough just as we are. Just as we are. Now, the lessons of the people that I have met along the way may appear to be simple, when in fact they demand a deep orientation, a recalibration of our lives. They demand a courage and a willingness to leave the familiar and to set sail toward shores of silence where the answers that we seek most are waiting for us. This is where the real treasure lies. This is where the map, the most important map of all exists, the map of the human heart. This is where we will become the most alive. And isn't it interesting that there are so many of us that would sooner hop a plane and fly halfway around the world than to explore the inner regions of our lives? So what is it that's keeping us on the outer banks of this territory? What are we so afraid of? I'm not afraid of dying. If you knew some of the crazy things I've done to access remote parts of the world, you'd understand. So what is it that terrifies me? I'm afraid of guarding my heart. I am afraid of loving courageously. I know the searing pain of loss when my husband died 5 years ago. I am afraid of betraying that barefoot girl by not standing up and speaking out for what I believe in. Let me close by telling you this story. I called the last remaining kupuna who raised me. Mamalaka, it's Elizabeth. Get all dressed up. We're going out to celebrate. I have some good news. I just got a new job. So I drive to Honolulu, from Honolulu to Kahuku. It's about an hour's north, and she's sitting in the front of her little hale. She's probably been waiting for me for the last hour. She's wearing her lauhala hat with a freshly made plumeria lei, and her matching lauhala bag, both of which she'd woven years ago. She's so cute in her bright mu'umu'u that stops here and her knee-high stockings that don't reach the hem. Away. So we go and we have a great dinner, and on the way home when I'm driving her back, we stop off at the beach where we spent so many years of our lives together. And we're sitting there under the stars. Now, she hasn't asked me all evening about this new job. And this is something I will always remember. As we sit, I can feel that she's watching me silently, studying me. She doesn't ask me about this new position, not interested in the fact that my agents just spent a month negotiating my contract. She doesn't care. She looks piercingly at me. Baby girl, will it make your heart happy? And so my story ends where it began, at the ocean's edge with my beloved kupuna. Malaka passed away shortly thereafter. And since her death, this is what I've come to realize. That some of our greatest explorers wear lauhala hats and not pith helmets. And that you don't have to travel to remote parts of the world to find that which is most rare and valuable. Our greatest explorations and all the provisioning that we will ever need is within us. So today, let's make a pact. Let's ask what it is that ignites our untamed, passionate spirits, and then let's follow that path. Each in our own way, each in our own time. Because what the world needs most is for us to remember our way home, to remember that we are enough just as we are, and to remember that we are children of the gods.